Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever the world you are. Very welcome to the session. And our session is being recorded. So this session is totally live. And so we're having the live presentation, and the session will be recorded, and it will be on the channel and on the socials, and most probably on the YouTube. Also, we will be sharing the YouTube afterwards for the people who wants to watch it afterwards or not was able to join to this live session actually. My name is Hamid, and currently what we are doing in this session, and what I was doing before, it was mainly with Microsoft technologies, and by the Microsoft Flow, I was also on the Flow and going with the cloud technologies, starting from fundamentals, administrator, and architect, and then enterprise architect. So whatever we as a team in this learning room and together within the communities that we worked before. So we want to just to share the experience. So this is really amazing to have you all here in this session. And again, with almost the same topic, because I really would love to share experiences, and the topics about the career path and the certifications, how to build that path, how to build the learning path, and so on. So this is actually nowadays the most of the questions we are getting, and especially I'm getting on LinkedIn, on the other socials. So let's get started and see what we are going to have today's agenda. Okay. Yes. So welcome to Microsoft Azure certifications, career path, and the opportunities. So the host for this session is supposed to be catching, and yeah, as mentioned, because of the most probably because of the connection issues, we are missing him. So if he joins, we will just continue our session. But just to mention at the beginning, so this session is recording, and we will have it available afterwards on the socials and the channel. So let's explore the magic in today's agenda. So we touched on the previous sessions about the certifications, career path, how to build the learning path, how to build the learner mindset, how to build the growth mindset. And so we want to revise a little bit and go through again, and for the people who already missed it, and at some of the sessions we weren't able to record, and to then make it offline and available for the people who are interested in the session. So yeah, that's the reason we are now recording, and will be available whole social again, and also the channel. So first we will start with Microsoft Azure in general, and going through the services and the differences between private public cloud, and then we'll start to dive a little bit in certifications and the starting point, where we are going to start, where we're supposed to start. And then we will have a quick look at Microsoft Learn, and also the learning rooms that currently we are engaged, and the purpose of the learning room, so, and the goals of the learning room that we are currently having for the future. And these kind of sessions are actually part of the learning rooms. So we will be discussing more in detail actually in the upcoming slides. So, and for the next topic, we will explore about the learning path tips. So we will share a little bit of experience and the tips about how to build those kind of learning paths, either starting from fundamentals or coming from different background, or already working with Microsoft technologies, with Azure services, Azure technologies, but want to switch the path. So we will also touch those points. And then we will go through networking and career path, which is at the end of every learning path, and at the beside of your path. This is really essential to being in the right network, connect with the right people, and build the right career path. And at the end of our session, we will have time for the questions and answers. So I will try to have 10 to 15 minutes of time at the end of the session, so we can go through the questions and the things that are already in your mind, and so I will be available to answer all of your questions. So let's start with Azure in general. So what is Azure and why there is growing and one of, I mean, the leading in the market currently, according to the recent news that we already saw. So it's now one of the most leading cloud service providers in the market. So with everything you have on premises, so you can find the equivalence and multiple service of that service that you have already on your on-premise on the cloud side, on Azure side. So that's the reason we need to be so careful and going through the service and the details. So there are many factors that I want to go quickly go through that here in this session, but in the further sessions, we will talk more about the administrating the environment, architecting environment, like how to make the monolithic applications divided into smaller applications, and using low code or no code applications, and the services that are already deployed, and flexible agility, which we will discuss in this slide, and so on actually. So as you can see in the slide, so we can host every Windows server or Linux servers on Azure side, and according to the contract and the commitment that you are having to use those servers at the cloud side, especially at Azure side. So Microsoft provides you a little bit of deals and the SLAs, which are really important on those contracts. Then we will also explore about it on this slide. So yeah, the question why Azure comes from there. So because we, I mean, not just we, us, me, many organizations and the world, it's going to the cloud side. I mean, not 100% pure cloud, but hybrid cloud. So most of the companies, organizations, either they prefer to use multi-cloud or hybrid cloud technologies, having on-premises and having Azure, and also using the other cloud providers. So this is actually going to be the future, because with the services we are seeing from Azure, it's already in there. For instance, here in the slide, we can see Azure Arc, which makes us makes it possible for us actually to use our resources not just in our local, and also the other providers, other cloud service providers, also using like Azure Monitor, monitoring our services and resources at the local on-premises and also the other cloud providers. So these are actually some of the benefits, advantages of the answer actually for the question why Azure. And the other thing is the SLA, high availability, keeping the lights always on. So these are most of the factors which is already proved by Microsoft Azure. So having the service secure, making it always available, and for one request, for one solution, having like multiple services from Microsoft Azure, and that makes us feel comfortable and not worried about if we have to adjust the service and I'm not able to use it for example, because of the price or because of the availability settings or because of any configuration that we are not able to use. So this is the thing coming from flexibility and agility, because that gives us the possibility to play with our service, play with our application on the cloud side. Either this is IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, which we will explore in the next slides, and the differences between those three categories from cloud providers. So this is the possibility that it gives to us at this step. And scalability. So the scalability whenever possible, so you can expand, upgrade, downgrade, and expand your service. And this is so easy when we are using Microsoft is when we've already migrated or we already started totally pure cloud service from at the Microsoft Azure side. And then it comes for the cost-effective cost of ownership. So having a little bit of flashback. So as I mentioned, when you are having longer contracts with Microsoft using Azure Service and you are signing for a contract for 3, 5, nearly 10 years for using that service. In this case, let's say Windows virtual machines, Linux virtual machines, SQL, could be anything. So when you're committing to use that service in the long term, so up to 60 to 70%, sometimes you're getting discount from Microsoft. So when you search for TCO or total cost of ownership in the Google, and you will see there is a link for that you will directly go to the TCO link at Microsoft Azure, and then you will be able to calculate it. So there is the Azure calculator beside that, so you can calculate for every service that you want to use. So you can just search for the service, choose the service, and just see and how's the SLA, how's the price, and how long you are going to use, and how's your commitment for the service. And then here's the TCO comes into play. And then migration and hybrid cloud. So as we already talked about, so it's possible to use, it's very flexible with Microsoft Azure services to use it as a hybrid cloud, and using the hybrid services with on-premises, so connecting it with any cloud provider. At the other hand, so there are also free and really flexible, really perfect tools, I could say, for the migration, for migrating your services from on-premises to Azure. So I had actually a session with Microsoft Reactor talking about Microsoft Azure migration services, and most probably we will have in the future in our learning rooms talking more in detail about Microsoft Azure migration services, like the strategies and discovering the services and preparing the resources for a migration, and so on. So this is also one of the main benefits, which makes us to migrate our services, either it is Windows machine, Linux machine, on VMware, or it is database, any kind of data. So there are different tools, different free tools actually from Microsoft Azure, which makes it possible for us to do the free migration. And actually, at some point, when you have licenses in your on-premises already using for Windows machines or for SQL, and when you transfer to migrate actually to Microsoft Azure, there are also discounts when you already hold a license from Microsoft on Microsoft products on your on-premises. And then here we come following the next slide, Azure in general. As we talked about, so here we are in the middle of a shared responsibility model, actually. Coming from the tradition, and also sometimes we even see now in some organizations, which is some kind of normal, some organizations, because of the layers of the privacy, layers of the data privacy. So it differs from organization to organization, from country to country, to keep the data on premises, or if it's possible, let's go to the cloud side, or if it's totally it's possible, let's make it hybrid, which is possible actually at majority of the cases. So let's go step by step here to see what is our responsibility, what is provider's responsibility, and what is the shared responsibility in this case. So as you can see, coming from the upper layers, from applications to networking, when we are having our resources on premises. So we are committed to manage everything on our end actually. So it is from applications, data, runtime, middleware, operating system, and so on. And then coming to the physical, so we need to have the rack, we need to have the servers, the storage, network for networking devices like switches, routers, and so on. And at some cases, the cooling service, the cabling, internet, broadband, IT staff, administrators. So this is all us, we manage. And then we are having the on-premises. Shifting a little bit to the right side, the infrastructure as a service comes into play, which makes it a little bit like lighter for us. So the virtualization part, servers, storage, networking, the physical environment, and the physical security, cooling, so all of them just removed. So what we are responsible for is the applications, data, runtime, middleware, OS, and security here, which is shared responsibility here. So we are also responsible at this step for the security of our infrastructure as a service services. As an example, for infrastructure as a service services could be virtual machines. So it could be Linux or Windows virtual machines at this step. Again, shifting a little bit to the right side here, platform as a service comes into play. Again, what we are responsible of and what we manage here is applications and data, and that's so on. An example for that could be web services or app services from Azure. So you just write your code, you just develop your applications, and you just manage data, and the rest is for Microsoft. And Azure just manage the rest. Again, shifting a little bit to the right side, we have software as a services. As you can see from the logos, so here at the top, Azure, it is a platform for containing everything. So we can build everything in there. Again, at the right side, so there is the M365 services actually, which is also a software as a service from Microsoft. And then we have Power Platform, we have Dynamics, all of them fell in the category of software as a service. So we just use the service. So we don't manage infrastructure. So we don't manage the platform. So we just define policies at some step. We just manage our users. And that's the most of the responsibility here as a shared responsibility model. I'm sure most probably you will be having questions, so we will have plenty of time at the end to discuss the questions. So let's go a little bit through the certifications and the starting points. So starting with the network administrator, plus with the security, and then we will go through the developer certifications and the starting point, and the data learning path and career path, and the business learning path and career path. So each of them is a separate career path, is a separate role, is a separate learning path. So at some cases and some questions that I'm getting sometimes, so is that possible to learn all? It is possible to learn all, and at some point it is essential to know fundamentals from each of them. So we need to know about data, we need to understand the code. I mean, we don't have to, but it is a plus. I mean, it's good to understand the code, because we are supposed to start, or we are already on the path with Microsoft Azure. So we want to become an administrator of an environment. So we want to become an architect of an environment. So we want to become a solution architect. So we need to understand the technology really in the deepest as much as we can. So understanding, when we look at a code, understanding code, or when we look at the technology, oh, okay, so we know how it works, okay, but not at the architect level. But let's know how it works. So this is a tool in our pocket. So this is how being the solution architect works. So being a solution architect means that we have thousands of hundreds of tools that we know how to use them at the proper place. So this could be the definition for the role of being solution architect and containing all these roles actually. So Azure Fundamentals AZ900 is the key point of, or the start point, as we have as the headline for this slide, for all the paths. So I would with Azure Fundamentals always start with AZ900, start with DP900, start with MS900, start with AI900. So these are, all of them are the starting point for if you're starting a fresh path, or if you're already coming from different background, or you're already working with Microsoft technologies but want to switch the path. So just start with the fundamentals and never forget to review the fundamentals. So we have Azure fundamentals, we have security, compliance, identity fundamentals, and then M365 fundamentals. at the network administrator plus with the security. And then we have Azure administrator, network engineer, security engineer. So the first part, first line here at this step, all supposed for the fundamentals of each path. So network administrator, developer, data, business. And the second line here, then the certifications and the certification paths, learning paths we see here are all supposed to be administrator paths. So as an administrator, we need to have a deep understanding of the environment. We need to know how to configure the environment, we need to know the different services from the compute resources from Azure, how to troubleshoot them, how to query them, how to check for the logs, how to use Azure Monitor. We need to have a deep understanding of the logging system, like how to write KQL queries to query the environment, to checking the logs, understanding it, so which will be eventually helpful for troubleshooting the services. So these all fell in the second line, all Azure administrator, security engineer, network engineer, and for developer, as you can see, again, you will start with Azure administrator, Azure developer, AI engineer, Cosmos DB, and so on. For the data, again, you will start with data administrator, and so on for business. And as the third path, which you became an experienced engineer, so you are becoming an Azure solution architect, and which is a 305 exam for that. And then you want to know about the security, about the cybersecurity, and then you take the exam. Before the exam, it is really recommended to have hands-on experience, to go through every resource you can, and ask questions in the learning rooms and the socials, search on the Google, everything, just as much as you understand it, you comprehend the technology, how it works. So this is the key to solution architect path. So we need to understand it really in the deepest level as much as we can. And then for the developer, you became an Azure DevOps engineer. So understanding Azure DevOps, understanding CI/CD pipelines and configurations, YAML files, infrastructure as a code language. It is really essential to understand ARM templates. And when we look at the ARM templates code, we need to immediately imagine the resource. So how is it going to deploy, how it is configured, at which way it's going to be deployed to the environment. So having a deep understanding of ARM templates, which is the key engine of Azure, is also essential. And beside that, Bicep, and so on. So you can also learn about Terraform, which is also a language for infrastructure as a code. So knowing more about the tools and the services, not a problem, but following multiple paths to become expert in multiple paths, for instance, in this diagram here, in this table here, so that could be confusing actually. So it is the recommendation to start the path, go through it by the time, being patiently, finishing the path, understanding, having a great comprehension of it, and then start the other path if you if you're interested in another path. But don't give up with the previous path, but always keep yourself up to date about it. And here we come to, I always tell to the present here and who are going towards the offline version. So learn is really great, and really you want to know, you want our session supposed to be actually in your phone, in your technology you are doing, any device you're using. So every time you different learning patch, or you make use of like to your Microsoft team, and there is a new update, so you get to know about it, the details. So which kind of data in tests, showing those services is all a tool for main thing is the tool that we learn, and we have it in our pocket to use. So as you know, the training and all the training sessions, training if you want to become an analyst, as we checked in the previous data expert, AI, or any path, role-based actually, so you can build the role you chose for the future. And through Microsoft questions and answers, so which is also a rich place to ask something. And a slide learning, we connect with other learners and I mean, I'm always aware any questions from learners come. So I am doing my best just to answer if it's a troubleshooting case or a there are learning rooms for the future, sessions, events, and questions, answers, blogs. So you're totally welcome to any activity you're having a session, you're welcome. So just ping. So we will build this the session. If you are not talk about the technology, you want to talk to IT, you're totally welcome. It is a want to write an article, a blog, you're totally welcome. So just ping me or just write in the channel. I'm always online there. There are practice assessment for exams from Microsoft Learn. So there are free assessment tests that you can use prior to your exam. So this is really a great feature. So you can see how the structure of the questions. So you can go through the structure of the questions. So you see the different kind of questions, how the questions are designed actually. So you get to know the template of the questions. So drag and drop questions and multi-choice questions. So and so on. So this is also a great feature from Microsoft Learn, which is also free to use. And free skill-up roadmaps. So there are also, as mentioned, like free roadmaps and the learning paths which you can build for your own as a free learning path from Microsoft Learn. I've already posted the links in the learning room. So if you are already in the learning room, you can see in the general channel. Or if you are not part of the learning rooms, you are totally welcome to fill in the form at the Microsoft Learn. I've also shared the link at the start of the session, or at the end of the session, I'll try to paste it in the chat so you can just request to join in there. So currently we are more than 1,000 learners in the learning room, so this is amazing. And also Microsoft Azure community. So we are currently a big community for Microsoft Azure, trying to cover every learning path, every questions from fundamentals to architect level, also trying to cover the learning path, building learning paths, career paths, any questions related to those. So this is fabulous that we are currently also trying to do our best to cover every aspect of Microsoft Azure. And as mentioned, it is an open community for everyone, so you are totally welcome to have any kind of activities you want to have actually. Let's go through learning path tips, as mentioned at the start of the session in our agenda. So I always recommend be consistent with the path you choose. So this is really essential when we start with fundamentals. So let's shift a little bit back. So always start with fundamentals, always start with basics, and every quarterly, like every month, every 2 months or quarterly, go through the basics and fundamentals again. This is maybe it will sound a little bit not logical, but I've experienced it, and with the people which I've shared it, and they also did that, got the positive things in the learning path. So going through the fundamentals, we always remember the structure and the foundation of the service. We always understand the foundation and basics of the platform. For instance, in this case, Microsoft Azure. So we always know how it's built, subscriptions, private public cloud, and resources, resource groups, the design, the structure, how the REST API works with Microsoft Azure, how you use PowerShell to connect to your environment. So we always have this in mind. So it's really good to go through it time to time, actually. So be consistent with your path and with your motivation. So you need just to create that identity and start with it, start the path, learn it, have the understanding, the comprehension, and then take the certification and then reward yourself. Again, fundamentals and basics are the essentials actually in this path. So as we mentioned in the previous slides, Azure is a role-based learning path. So when there is the title for the certification Azure Administrator, so it is not covering every technology, every service. So you don't have to know, don't have to become an expert in every role actually in Azure. So if you're an Azure administrator, so you are interested and you are motivated by the infrastructure and computing services, so this is your role. So you can just follow that path, have the full understanding, build your path on it, build your career with it. And then if you're interested in another role, you can start that one, but never again, don't forget again to go through the previous role, previous technologies, services, updates you learn time to time, and keep yourself up to date also about it. And for the last and but not least, creating learning habits, which is the learner mindset. So we need to build that mindset that always in a daily basis we need to learn every day, every time during the day. Of us, we are busy, we are working, having a lifestyle, and but putting that learning habits in the between of the things that we are doing during the day, so that then just after 30 days we will see the effect of this being a learner mindset. So we will realize, I have a great understanding of that service. Let's take the certification, and as much as you get the certifications, you become more motivated, you become more enthusiasm, and then you want to follow more and more, having a deep understanding of that service, of that specific service. Or you want to learn about the other role paths, you want to go through data, you want to learn about Microsoft AI. In the parentheses, it's really also essential to nowadays to know about Microsoft AI and Microsoft AI services, because now it is the new future, the new generation of the technology, and now it is already integrated and going to integrate more and more with AI. So it's also necessary to know how AI works and Microsoft AI works actually. And again, as a last in this slide, learn on a daily basis. And I guess this is our last slide, and also somehow most important slide. After we start from our first slide, and then coming here to summarize everything in our network and in our career path, actually. So we already started, we built our learner mindset, we went through fundamentals and basics, we understand the technology, we got certified, we are self-confident that we are going to take the responsibility of an environment as an administrator or as an architect or as an AI engineer or data engineer or data scientist. And now it's time to connect with professionals and people from the right network, which will eventually boost our career path. So connect with the right people within the industry and follow their updates. For instance, follow and connect with Microsoft employees, follow their updates, follow engineers, follow MVPs, MCPs, and Microsoft Learn updates and Microsoft Learn channels in different socials, like on Twitter, and but most importantly on LinkedIn actually at the first, and follow also on Twitter, and also the other social networks as much as you can. Follow the people who are already experienced while sharing updates, writing articles, talking about technology, sharing news about technology, and talking about the edge technology. So this is really essential. So keeping ourselves updated, connecting with the right people, talking about technology in their network. So asking questions to them, and I'm sure that they will be happy to answer, because it's the motivation and the passion they want to do, to share and answer the questions. I'm always in there just to always answer your questions. So create a well-prepared and summarized CV. This is really essential to explain yourself, write about yourself in 1 to 2 lines, and then write a little bit about 1 to 2 lines about your experience. So write over yourself, about your experience, then start write your career path and the experiences you had in the companies. So by detail, and explaining what kind of skills you had when you joined to that company, and what you have learned when you left that company, from which time to time, and what was your role, so what you added to that company as a value. So explain them in your CV, but in a summarized version. So if you have any questions about that, again, I'm always online in Learning Room, so we can talk about it in more in detail in there. Be active on LinkedIn and always have an up-to-date profile. Any achievement, anything that you are learning currently or want to learn, or anything you want to share as an experience in your network, just add them in your LinkedIn profile immediately. So this is really helpful. As much as you keep your profile up to date, you get engaged within the right network. So then it boosts your network. So people start to follow you. People start to add you as their network. So it could be a little bit of here reverse engineered. So first you are following, and now you are sharing, people start to follow. So the right networks comes and find you here and at this step. Again, be specific in your career path and know what you want to do and what you want to become in your role. So I always share in the sessions, see the identity of yourself that you want to become in your career path, in your learning path. So feel it, start it, see the thing that you want to become after you finish the learning path, and the seeing the identity at the end of your career path will boost actually your motivation. And this is actually what we all need to do, the passion and the motivation, which is key in this path. So as a final advice, good luck in your learning and career path. Here we are in our last slide, and then we will go to our next and questions and answers slide actually here. As the last update, I would like to add, you can join to the learning room, and for the link, yeah, I just paste the link here, so you can use that link. So I just made it tinier with the bit.ly, so you just click it, so you can choose the learning room we currently have. You can choose the Microsoft Azure Zero to Hero, and when you click it, so there is a request form from Microsoft Learn. You just fill in it with your information and the email, and then automatically it will be approved and joined to the Microsoft Teams Learning Room channel. And me and Catching, you can follow us on Twitter. Here's our IDs. You can always ping us in there. And here's our LinkedIn links. And we will be always also online on LinkedIn. So I'm available to your questions. Now you can start with your questions. Hi, Mohsen. Yes, I can actually make it possible to use the microphone. And Shrikant, the session is recorded. Yes, we will share it afterwards. So we will share the recorded version, the offline version within the Learning Room channels, and also in the social networks, also most probably on YouTube channels. Okay. Mohsen, I guess you have the microphone access now, so you can ask any questions you have.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Hamid.
Hello.
Good night. Hello. Thank you so much for your great presentation.
Of
I try to use make most
course.
most of it. And I've got a question. I've got a question. As far as I've read about responsibility in Azure, in every place, type of service. I mean, IaaS, PaaS, or SaaS. Identity and data is on cloud provider side. But among your slides, I saw in SaaS all the responsibility were on cloud provider side. Would it be different or?
Mohsen, at some point your voice just disconnected, but I just want to confirm. So your question was like the data, is it our responsibility or the cloud provider responsibility?
Yes, exactly. Maybe I was a little bit confused about the concept of data here, because as far as I know, data and identity access. I mean, devices and users, as well as data is on our side, I think. Am I right or I'm wrong?
Yes, exactly. I mean, with starting every SaaS, I mean, PaaS or IaaS. So as you know, when we start a tenant, automatically we are connected with an Azure AD, sorry, or in this case, Entra ID, which is the new name for that. So we are responsible for our users and also for our data. But when it's the SaaS, so like 99% of the responsibility, again, as it is mentioned, because it is at the cloud provider side. But again, we are using those services at the cloud provider side. It is shared responsibility. So we can say, for instance, to Azure, this is my client and this is my service. Just manage it. So that's the reason why we can't call it that's the reason, sorry, we call it a shared responsibility, because we are responsible for the users we bring to that tenant, to that Entra ID. So we manage it is our devices, it is our users, our organization users, our company's user. At many steps, actually, yes, it is our responsibilities. But what I didn't get was that mentioned by the difference in our slides?
No, it was just I felt a difference between your slide and other actually demonstrations I've seen before in other, I don't know, references, other websites or PDF or books. I felt that there was a difference between the shared responsibility on your slide and other slides. Maybe I was confused because of some concepts here. Maybe. Thank you
Of
so
course, I
much
mean,
for your great explanation. By the way.
of course, you're totally welcome. The thing is, when we generate the data on Azure side, so Azure is responsible for making it based on the SLAs that we purchase for with the services. So Azure is responsible to maintain those data and make it secure for us. But at some step, we are also, as also mentioned in the slide, so the security is a shared responsibility and also the most important one. So it could affect the data and also the users and the devices that we have with the IDs and the policies we define in our Azure AD. So again, yeah, this is the shared responsibility which exactly affects that part. So as you mentioned, users, devices, or any object we create. But as a physical security, it is on Azure side, and as a software and active security. So at some step, it is our part. So because when we have the Azure AD or Entra ID, so we also supposed to define security policies. So for instance, MFA, like authentication policies, and so on. I hope that answered your question.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much for your full and detailed explanation. Thank you so much.
No problem. For the next question, Shrikant, first of all, you're very welcome. So, the session will be available afterwards for everyone, not just in the session, but also available publicly for whole learning room, also for the our network in socials and also YouTube. For your question, would you have any certification path suggestions for executives and decision makers? I mean, it depends from role to role. So if like executives, they are like project managers or scrum masters or decision makers. At some point, they understand technology or they want to understand the technology, or at some point they just follow the soft skills, how to manage like the people, the experts and architects in the team, and how to follow up the tasks, the documentation, and from the high level. So as an architect, you are also in there at the highest level. So you're always in touch in the consultation, talking about the designs. But I would suggest if the person as a decision maker knows about the Azure, so then it's okay. But if the decision maker is just a manager with soft skills and want to understand the environment, it's always suggested to start with fundamentals. But if they're already in the middle of the path, so just continue that path and till end, get the certifications and certified, and then starting with the other rules. I mean, depending on the needs and the technology that is being used in the environment. Hope that answers your question, Shrikant. Catching, I see you are here. Do you have anything to add?
Not at the moment. I think I will just wait for a few more questions to come in before I can add anything towards the end of today's session.
Yeah, of course. So if there aren't any more questions, actually, we can.
I think Shrinkant is actually typing, so waiting
yes,
for his
exactly.
questions to come in.
Okay. Precon says, for example, I manage a large 200-person team and I'm a VP of a large organization. I want to learn the technology. Okay, great. Concepts, but not a deep level recommendation for. Oh, okay, yeah, fundamentals could be a great choice. I mean, if you want to start and have an understanding of the technology concepts, so start learning the technology. So if you're already using Microsoft Azure services, and if you're managing like a large team, 200 experts in your team, so whenever they are talking about the technical things, so and if you have like difficulties understand the technical concepts or the designs, always start with fundamentals. And yes, in this case, it's AZ900. So AZ900 will give you the understanding and comprehension of the subscriptions, foundation of Microsoft Azure, the differences between private and public cloud, which we also went through in this session. And you will understand the resource groups, management groups, and so on. And then I will suggest start with AZ 104 as an administrator, and then you will have a little bit of deep understanding of the services. But if you are not doing technical things anymore, then it will give you a good understanding. You can then also read a little bit about the security, which is AZ 500 at this case, which will also be helpful for you to understand the security from that perspective. No problem, you're totally welcome. I guess that was the last question. Catching, you can go on if you have anything to share.
I think Emanuela asked the question, and her question goes thus: are there any student discounts for certifications?
Sorry, maybe I just missed it. Yeah, if you're still a student, I mean, actually, you can start a free subscription with Microsoft. So you go to portal.azure.com, you just sign up, you just verify your identity, and then you have a free credit from Azure for a year, and you can do like laboratories and tests in there, touch the services, touch the resources, and it will give really a great understanding. And for the certifications, most probably they are. I'm not sure, but I will verify it. Then I will share the news in the learning room. If I knew that previously there were student discounts for certifications, and now I just need to verify. So if you're in the learning room, just ping me. I will just verify it, and then I will share it with you if it is already. But most probably it's in there. But just in case, I'll just confirm it for you.
Doreen also asked the question: how many practice assessments can one take?
It's free, so as much as you can, Emanuela, you can do as much as you can, many practice assessments. So it's just there. You just need to have a Learn profile, Microsoft Learn. So any practice test you can do in there actually. Oyesola, I'm not sure if I understand your question. Can I move to a solution architect role from service delivery? Of course. I mean, if you already understand the foundation of Azure, if you have a good understanding actually from the architect and the design concepts, and having deep understanding and knowing about different kind of tools that you can use in your environment, of course you can. But if from a service delivery manager role you want to switch to a solution architect, I would suggest again start with fundamentals and be patient, just learn about it, build laboratories, have some hands-on experience and in the project, and most probably I believe you are in the project as a service delivery manager. Sorry, but it's recommended to be to touch the environment as an expert. But it is possible, yes. And Trikat Ishara, a recommendation is to follow. Yes, follow him. It's good, of course. I mean, do not limit yourself to one resource. Follow multiple resources. It's always a good idea. Follow YouTube videos from tips. So this is the exactly the thing that I was mentioning actually in career and networking the slide, to connect and follow experts in your network. So in this case, this YouTube channel, or so there are also many YouTube channels. So there are also many pages in LinkedIn, websites, forums, and blogs. So do not limit yourself just to one resource, but yeah, again, follow multiple and technology news, multiple resources, read about them, talk and ask questions to them actually. So this will be really helpful.
Yes,
Welcome.
I would also wish to highlight again to those that joined a little bit late. Like Hamid said earlier, when starting your career in Microsoft, a role-based career, you should always start with the fundamentals. Very important. If you're going in for an architect role, you're going in for data, AI, or 365, always get the fundamentals. Get your fundamentals right before you can move on to the next level. To every person who is listening, please always go for the fundamentals first. And also, I believe that the recordings will be shared later. So always make sure that you build, don't leave the career path in which you begin in. Always continue the path to the end. Don't try to get confused in the middle of it, because some people will probably start in AI and later on you find them in 365, and later on no. Get a fixed career path in which you're growing in, and build your LinkedIn profile around that role that you have chosen, and become an expert in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Catching. That was really helpful to highlight that part. Exactly, this is really important to from which I mean, regardless of your current role and the current learning path, this is really important. But if you want to switch to Azure, or if you want to switch your role in Azure, always start basics and fundamentals. Whatever you are a manager, you are a junior in your path, you are a student, or you are a fresh graduate, you are already experienced professional in that in this way. So always again start with fundamentals if you want to switch the role or if you want to start. So that was a great idea to share it and highlight it again, Catching. Yeah, yes, Shrikant, exactly. So jumping between paths, it will not only will make us confused within the paths, and also at some point it's the feeling of somehow losing our motivation about it. So because when we follow one path and when we have achievement in that path, so this is a great feeling, so we get motivated about it and we want to learn and dig more about it and go deep more about it actually. So and we have the full focus of the whole energy to put on that path about that role. But when we divide it to different roles, to different learning paths, at some point it's not good idea actually. We will have 3 more minutes for the questions, and so if you have any questions, just write in the chat. I mean, we are not just limited to this session. If you are in the learning room or want to join afterwards, questions and answers are not just limited to the session. Me and Catching, we are all always online in there to answer your questions. Thank you, guys. It's really good to have your feedbacks on the session. Glad to hear that, and you're very welcome. We will have more of these sessions. We are having plans to have regular sessions and events, so you are always welcome. If you want to talk about any specific technology category, just ping us. We are, as mentioned, always online in there. Thank you, Shrikant, for the nice words. Thank you, Mohsen. Appreciate it. And yeah, as Catching mentions here, for the French speaking learners here in this session and also in the learning room. So yeah, we will be also available if you have any questions about it. You're very welcome, Emanuela. If you have any questions, we will be online afterwards also in the learning room. second, can we have a announcement? They tend to get lost in that. I mean, of course, I always try to mention them at the general channel, so which is the toughest channel actually. But that's a good idea. I mean, yes, that's a good idea. So we will keep in mind like having a specific channel for the events and the sessions that we plan for the future. But I always try to mention the channel and whole learning learning room. Then it will notify everything. I'm sorry, it will notify everyone in the channel, so everyone will get a notification about the post that we post in the channel. But that's a good idea. We will keep it in mind. Thank you. I mean, nowadays for every event, I try to mention several times the general channel just to make everyone notified about the upcoming event. So I believe we are on time.
If I
Catching, do you have
may,
anything?
yes. I've actually had a couple of few persons who have come to me not knowing how to go around the Microsoft Learn platform. So whatever fundamental lesson you want to take, whatever path you want to take, if you are having difficulties to navigate, you could actually ping us as well in the learning room, or you just get in contact with us and we could help you out to get the exact self-paced path that you need. So that, because a lot of people get there and sometimes they don't know how to move around. So anytime you need help, you can let us know and we could help you in that.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. We're always available for any questions. So I would like to thank every one of you in this session. This is really great to have you in here in the session. And if you're already in the learning room and if you're not joined to the learning room, so we will be glad to see you in the next sessions. And as mentioned, we're planning to have regularly not just certifications, career paths and opportunities, talking about these topics, and also we would like to talk about technical things which is related to the free trainings, which also Catching delivers free trainings in the learning room, and talking about the Azure fundamentals, delivering trainings in there, Azure administrator services, and the things that an administrator can do in there, and so on until architect level. So there are unlimited of things that we can talk about. So thank you so much, and I wish you all a great day, rest of the day, and a great weekend. So see you in the next sessions. Thank you, everyone.